Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're locked into The Prophecy tonight with your host, Polaris. As I said in my story earlier, if you caught that, I got a lot of new music today, and I was debating whether I should play it all tonight or if I should save some for the next episode, but I think I put most of it in this episode. Anyways, this is New Technomatic. It's called Falling Away from the Time on Our Side EP. background is by, I think it's Amos or Amos. I'm not really sure how to say his name. I'm still confused on that part. But it's off of the Lotus EP. The track is called A Lot to Give. And I believe it came out just over a month ago. It was suggested to me in my Bandcamp releases, which is really good. I'm glad Bandcamp is really pushing a lot more. We've got quite a few events coming up in the city as well, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to go through some of those and give you guys the full details. So once again, that was Amos with A Lot to Give off of his Lotus EP. This one coming up, Umbra and Sydney Bryce. The track is called I Can Feel You Again. Discord chat now. I've got 11 people online, it says, so it's pretty good. Big shouts going out to Phoenix.
Yeah, I can feel you.
Big shouts going out to Chronic Koala in the chat. Fafu, welcome. SP locked in. Feel free to share the link, share it with your friends, get them involved. We're trying to grow this Discord community as much as possible.
Everything's in my heart, it's all rearranged. I can feel you again. No, not the same thing. Everything's in my heart, but there's no more debating that I can feel you again. I can feel you again.
again, that last track was by Umbra and Sidney Bryce on vocals. Song was called I Can Feel You Again. This next one in the background is a release of mine and a good friend of mine, Ritual. It's called Lullaby. Not a lot of people know about this tune, but it was part of a compilation album for the BC flood relief a few years back. A good friend of ours, Aaron Payne over there in Victoria, asked us to put together a track for a compilation album he was putting together. And so we did, and came up with this one. Check it out, Lullaby by Polaris and Ritual. Track in the background is by Switch and Stunna. This is from the Chronicles of the Deep LP. It actually says in brackets old stock. Well, Switch and Stunna. Track is called Together. background is London Electricity, and this one isn't out yet, so I can't really disclose that information, but it's brand new from Tony, Mr. Tony Coleman. I am very grateful that I have the relationship that I do with this man. We keep in touch quite often about life and music and other things, and feel lucky to be able to share my music with him, and I feel lucky to receive some of his music as well. So keep an eye out for this one. It's going to be coming out on his label. And he's got lots more stuff on there coming up. He's really prolific right now. He's had so much inspiration, and he's been doing a lot of touring, and he loves every second of it. And he's still very young at heart. I can't believe this man and how much work he puts into his career still. After already putting so much work into Hospital Records for so many years. I feel like now he's finally reaping the rewards of everything, of all of his work. Got to open his own label, Fast Soul Music. I don't think there's not one release on there that I haven't enjoyed. Anyways, Mr. Lone Electricity. So for those of you that are in the chat right now listening, I have posted the mobile link to listen on the website in the resources channel on right on Prophecy FM. So if your friends are asking you where can I listen, just send them that link, and all they got to do is open it, and it'll just take them straight to the player. Track in the background, Old Moves by Singular Mind. Sorry about that. Didn't realize that song would stop so abruptly. I never actually listened to it till the very, very, very end. But that one, if you did like it, was off of the Fading Lights EP, which I would suggest checking out. There's a lot of tunes on there, a lot of good tunes. This one is a remix of SWV's Rain by myself, Polaris. Not sure when I'm going to put this out, but I thought I'd throw it in tonight. Mr. Valiant MC in the chat. Welcome. Good to see you here, man. And it was good to see you not too long ago either. IRL. So once again, that was SWV Rain, the Polaris remix, which I will be putting out. I'm just not exactly sure when. I've got a couple of other releases lined up. But definitely stay tuned for that one in the near future. And that will most likely be out on my Bandcamp, Highland Recordings. If you're not following Highland Recordings on Instagram and Bandcamp and all that, please head over and give us a follow. We've got a lot of releases lined up, and not strictly drum and bass either. Next track in the background here is one of my classic favorite tunes. I guess it's not really considered a classic, but in terms of how much I fucking love this tune. This one's by Hydro, War, and Mateba. It's called the Blacklight single, and the track is called Enlightenment. We got a few events coming up. I'm gonna talk about the first one. This is one called we got Let It Roll happening September 20th with Delta Heavy, Sigma, Mosey, Justin Hawks. This one's happening at the concert hall. You can find tickets for this one at destinyevents.ca. I've been to the concert hall a few times. It's a pretty good venue. They got good people there. Good sound. If you've got the right sound technician in for that night.
You don't have to have a lot of money.
But I believe they did try to make Let It Roll happen here before. I don't remember. I think they did. They managed to do it once, but they're apparently bringing it back again. So that is September 20th, which is just around the corner. Delta Heavy, Sigma, Mosey, Justin Hawks. Excited to see Justin again. Always a good time when Justin comes to town. Last time he was here, a couple of years back, we went and got ramen before his show. Had a quick chat about everything. And this was just after he had changed his name from Flight to Justin Hawks. Because of the discrepancies there between him and DJ Flight. I'm not going to speak on that matter. but it was good. So I'm hoping that we can do it again. It is 10:45, 10:45. You guys are locked into The Prophecy with your host Polaris this week. Still got lots more music coming up. Keep it locked. Moving on to another remix. This is actually a remix of a release tune of mine called Pool Hopping out on Liquicity. This one isn't released, however. And if you want to think about it, it's actually a remix of a remix, because I am currently in the process of remixing Pool Hopping, which I sent to Ritual, and then he said, hey, let me have a go at it. So I said, okay, so it's a remix of a remix. Have a go. And this is what he came up with. Yeah, so that was, if you go listen to the original Pool Hopping, you'll hear the differences between them. It's this one's definitely more of a jungle mix than the original. And the remix I'm working on is a little bit more, I guess, on the heavier side of things, but still in that liquid vein. Track coming up in the background is called The Way. This one is by Tremor. This is off of his Just a Dream EP on Focus Recordings. But can I just say, Paul and Bryson, hello? It kind of, the first time I heard this tune, I was like, yeah, that sounds like that Paul and Bryson tune. I'll tell you what I did.
89.5 FM, the sound of your city. Stream us anytime at www.ciut.fm.
And
that last track was called Pink by Deeper Connection on the Autumn Leaves EP. Very good track. Nice and long, 7 minutes of that. Super relaxing, and yeah, it's just an all-around great tune. Great drum work. Very simple. Track coming up is called Texture by Conrad Subs. This is off the Technical Pressure album.
I think all they're doing anyone starts is just what else they're listening to. So that's where they select themselves.
Once again, that was Texture by Conrad Subs. And this is on Metalheads, currently out right now. This next one is a tune I stumbled upon actually by accident one night, and I really liked it, so I Shazammed it, and it's by Nick B. and Tom Finster. I've never heard of these guys. The track is called Atlantica, but it is a very good tune. So once again, that last track was called Atlantica by Nick B and Tom Finster. It was off the Atlantica single. I'm gonna slow things down right now, and it is 11:11, so make sure y'all make a wish out there. I'm gonna slow things way down, like I always do on my show. And we're just gonna sit back and take a breather and relax a little bit. Think about all the wonderful things that you're grateful for this year, and the many good things to come. back into the chat now. Took a nice little short nap there. Valiant saying that had a classic Atmo feel. I'm guessing you're talking about the last tune that I played by Deeper Connection. And yes, it did. Very much so. Alright, we are going back up to speed now. This is a song by myself. It is called All I Need, and it is coming out on the 26th of this month on Highland Recordings. This is side A of the single, and it's called All I Need. And you guys get a full track preview tonight. Phoenix said, just made a wish. Except when he said that, the text on the chat says 11:12, so I'm afraid you might have missed it, my friend. But if you didn't, I hope you make a wish every 11:11. Very important. Again, the track in the background is called All I Need. This one's coming out on my label, Highland Recordings, this September 26th. Phoenix in the chat saying the last track felt like a track that you would get lost into a deep trance like space travel. Yeah, these meditative tunes kind of do feel like that. I myself personally listen to a guy called State Azure. He's on Bandcamp. He's got like 1 hour long meditative tracks on there, 4 hours, 8 hours. And sometimes I just put it on my phone, and right as I'm going to bed, I just put it on low volume, let that stuff play, and it really, really helps with sleep. So these are really special tracks. Track in the background, Roughage Crew, Goldie, and Submotive, Mercury. in the background is Technomatic, the Golden Section. This is the Zero T remix. And now that I've got your attention, I've got another event here happening September 27th. This one is going to be at 1192 Queen Street West, or aka Small's Kitchen, if you've been there before. We've got Gremlins, myself, Polaris, BG, Rhythmo, Substrat, Sear, my man A2 on the mic, and Arrow MC as well. And that is September 27th, 1192 Queen Street West. Be there. everybody knows that last one. Total Science, Soul Patrol. This next one coming in is side B of the All I Need single coming out on Highland Recordings. This is by myself, Polaris. It's called Absolute, and this comes out this month on the 26th.
Love you forever.
All right, guys. I wanted to thank you for joining me tonight. We're just coming to the end of the show now. The last two tracks that I played were Flow by Skeleton and Silence Groove and Human Nature, and Como Rebi by Human Nature before that. I've got Whisper to Me coming in from Poland Bryson. This is off of Escapism 3 by Liquicity. And I will end it off with another wonderful ambient track by an artist called 36. That's right, it's just two numbers, 36. And the name is DNI. Thanks again for joining me. Tune in again next Friday, right here on CIUT.FM 89.5 for more drum and bass. And have a great night.
From the world I hide into you.